Your WavyOcho, I'm gonna react to Belal Muhammad on why he's the most overhated and disrespected.
It is in the worst position you can be in as a fighter. See, if you're a UFC fighter, you can exist in one of two states. You either are well liked by the fans, but Dana does not like you, and so you either have to wait to get a title shot, not have a say on your opponents once you get the title, or sometimes you're forced to leave the UFC altogether. Or you're on the other side of the spectrum. Dana loves you, but the fans may not love you as much, but because you have Dana White privilege, you can get undeserving title shots and big money fights quicker than most.
Damn, Dana White. Dana White must have favorites. He has favorites, you know. He has favorite fighters, you know.
But in the special case of Belal Muhammad, neither Dana nor the fans en masse like him. I have seen countless memes of the man. Since his nickname is Remember the Name, I have seen many people call him Can't Remember the Name or Remember the Decision. He's been called boring, he's been called someone whose fights will put you to sleep, and overall just does not have a fan-friendly style. But if you don't count the no contest eye poke fiasco with Leon Edwards, Belal is on a 9-fight win streak with wins against Stephen Thompson, Gilbert Burns, and even a finish over a previously undefeated Sean Brady. But despite such a deep resume, practically no one is talking about Belal getting a title shot. So even though Belal is on a big win streak and is ranked a top 3 welterweight, why doesn't he get the respect he deserves? Well, the go-to answer is that Belal is boring. But just how boring is his style? He has won 23 times in his professional career, with 17 of those wins coming way of decision, meaning he only finishes his opponents about 26% of the time. To put this low percentage in perspective, Belal has by far the lowest finish rate of the top 5 welterweight contenders, and including the champ Leon Edwards. At the top of this list we have obviously Khamzat Chimaev at a monster 92% finish rate, with his only decision win coming from Gilbert Burns, who ranks second on this list at 68%, followed by Kamaru Usman, who's at 50%, Leon Edwards, the champ, at 48%, followed by Colby Covington at 47%. Everybody compares Colby Covington's style to Belal Muhammad's, but his finish rate is still much larger than Belal Muhammad's, and the difference between his and Belal Muhammad's is almost as big as Belal Muhammad's finish rate in it of itself. But decisions and finish rates can be deceiving. Max Holloway is a great example of this. Max's last 8 fights have ended in decision, though no one in their right mind would call him boring. He's either been in wars against guys like Dustin Poirier and Alexander Volkanovski, or simply he has beaten down his opponents like Calvin Kattar. So even though he's not getting finishes, his high volume, high output style of striking makes him very fun to watch. So I decided to watch Belal Muhammad's fights during his current win streak, and here's what I found. But before I get into his style, I just want to note that this is an...
And Belal Muhammad has an impressive record, you know. That's an impressive record. Why the fuck is he getting hate? He should have been getting love, you know, like, because maybe some fans would just be thinking his fighting style is not valid, you know.
Observation for the majority of his fights, meaning we will be excluding his amazing TKO performance against Sean Brady because it's such an outlier. So getting into his style, his strong suit is definitely wrestling. Like Khabib and even Khamzat, he has such an aggressive wrestling mindset in that he's always looking for the takedown, but unlike those guys, his ground and pound is so weak in comparison to those two and rarely seeks to finish with a submission. To Belal's credit, he does have some explosive takedowns and great timing, as displayed against Vicente Luque in their second fight, but once he's on top, he doesn't seek to finish, which is his biggest sin to being a fan favorite. Here, he takes Stephen Thompson's back and proceeds to spam him with very weak, non-damaging punches, and was far from finishing Wonderboy at any point in this fight. Had it been Khamzat or even Khabib, I feel like both those guys would have aggressively seeked and may have gotten the rear naked choke. His game overall is to seek top control and just lay there, and I've heard people call Khabib boring for doing the exact same thing, but when Khabib wasn't finishing fighters, he was still laying down nasty ground and pound from this position. Though he often displays very high levels of grappling, Belal's lack of aggression towards getting a finish is what turns people off of his style. And his striking isn't helping him either. In his fight against Demian Maia, he stunned Demian Maia with a right hand, and even the crowd who was booing a majority of this fight reacted. But instead of continuing to strike and seeking the finish, he kept popping safe shots, knowing he had won the fight. And I feel like that's the story with his striking. It's very singular, and what I mean by that is he tends to throw one strike at a time, either a jab, a straight, or a lead body kick, and rarely does he get into firefights, trade in the pocket, or seek the finish when he stuns his opponent. Say what you want about Colby and how Belal and him have very similar styles, but what I found is that Colby's boxing is far superior than Belal's, and Colby is way more willing to trade punches. This obviously makes him susceptible to being dropped himself, but it makes for great exchanges like his wars against Kamaru Usman and some great moments in terms of boxing against Jorge Masvidal. Belal simply does not have the same mindset, and sometimes it feels like his striking is just an intermission for his takedowns, and when watching his fights, you can clearly see he's waiting for his opportunity to go for a takedown and is simply just striking in the meantime. What also does not help his case is that he's beat a couple fan favorites like Stephen Thompson and recently Gilbert Burns. And obviously the way he beats them makes the situation worse, with fans not giving him the credit he deserves. Despite a dominant victory over Gilbert Burns, a top welterweight in his own regard, fans still do not give Belal respect for this win and point to him not being able to finish a one-armed opponent, as Gilbert had injured his shoulder in the first round of this fight, though Belal himself took this fight on 16 days notice. But after watching his fights, there is definitely a silver lining to his style. He has the potential to finish fighters, or at the very least be much more exciting than he is, and the Sean Brady fight showed it. I think the most important thing the Sean Brady fight showed was that the difference of game plan and mentality Belal had going into this fight completely changed his style. Belal immediately pressed forward in this fight and had every intention in hitting Sean Brady hard and not backing away from the boxing, which eventually led to a finish. And definitely the reason for this was Khabib. With Khabib in his corner, you could definitely tell Belal was much more comfortable and confident moving forward and looking for the finish. So I think the solution to Belal's boring style is to change up the mentality of how he wins his fights and to tell him and give him the confidence to move forward. Now when it comes to his personality, he really doesn't have one. Belal seems like a genuinely nice and humble guy, but the UFC can't have that unless you're knocking people out. See, to succeed in the fight game, you need to have one of two things: a fun fighting style or a pay-per-view selling personality. And you can often succeed with having one without the other. The perfect example of this phenomenon is Pacquiao and Mayweather, two of the highest selling pay-per-view boxing stars with vastly different styles. Manny Pacquiao was a very nice, humble guy who did not talk shit in press conferences at all, and I don't even remember if he had beef with anyone for that matter, but what sold him was his style. He was so quick, his punches came in high volume, and he often bloodied and bruised his opponents, making him a...
Damn, that. Look at his eye, bro. Look at Pacquiao. Look at the nigga who Pacquiao punched. Look at his eye, bro. His shit's is dumb clothes, bro.
fan favorite. Way on the other side of the spectrum was Floyd Mayweather. His style was very defensive, slick and skilled, but often did not result in a finish. But he did have a very infamous persona. Everyone knew who Money Mayweather was, and his persona of cars, jewelry, and shit talk was what sold. And though extremely rare, every so often you have a guy who has both, and when that happens, it completely shifts combat sports. Though in the case of Belal, he's pretty dry in interviews, and overall is just a nice guy whenever he's on the mic, which does not help his case considering he's already a boring fighter. Colby had the same problem and did a complete 180 in terms of his personality and went on the complete offensive, which worked. Though for Belal, whenever he does try to talk a little smack, it usually backfires. Take the case of him calling out Leon. Belal in some interviews has called out the champion Leon for a rematch after their first fight ended in a no contest. However, fans are always quick to point out Belal was getting cooked before the eye poke. And in general, whenever he does some sort of call out, some fans are quick to remind him of how boring he is. Okay, so he has a boring style that rarely results in finishes, and he has no personality to make up for it, but the hate Belal gets is still unwarranted in my opinion. Again, he's been on a 9-fight win streak, with his last 5 wins being Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Vicente Luque, Stephen Thompson, and Damian Maia, all top 10 ranked welterweights, with Belal being an underdog for all of those fights except Damian Maia. He's pretty active in the welterweight division and is always willing to take some of the top-ranked guys in the division, as shown with his short-notice win over Gilbert Burns during Ramadan. Like him or not, he deserves a title shot in the welterweight division off of pure merit alone. But unfortunately for Belal, guys like Colby, Hamzat, or even Shavkat are more desired by the fans to get the title shot, which truly shows he's in the worst position to be in as a fighter. Though I will say in recent Belal videos, I have been seeing a little more love than hate for Belal, and I've seen a lot of people recognize the unwarranted hate that he gets. Anyways, what do you...
Okay, that's the vid. Yeah, let me know. Let me know what y'all think. What is your favorite Belal Muhammad's fights? What is your favorite fight of Belal Muhammad? Let me know. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the vibes. So we're just checking out you are.